So I hired the best cryptanalyst in the world, a guy named Lenny Baum, who you may have heard of the Baum-Welch algorithm, the EM algorithm, expectancy maximization. He discovered that. So he came to work with me. And we built a little system, even though I was trading fundamentally at the time, you know, seat of the pants sort of thing, which way was the wind blowing. We developed this sort of primitive currency trading system. But we didn't actually put it into practice because one day Lenny didn't show up for work until the middle of the afternoon. And I should say that Lenny loved to read the broad tape. There was this tape, we called it the doomsday machine because it just clicked. This broad tape would roll all day long, giving the financial news of the world. And he liked to study that. He was supposed to be studying making systems, but he liked to read that tape. So he came in late, and I said, "Where you been?" And he said, "Margaret Thatcher has been sitting on the pound, and it has to go up." I said, "Oh, well, I wish you'd come here this morning." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because Margaret Thatcher just stood up." And Margaret Thatcher just stood up, and the pound is way up. He said, "How much is it up?" I said, "Well, it's up at nickels, 5 cents so far." He said, "It's going to go up 50 cents, $1. Buy pounds. We should buy pounds." I said, "Okay, buy pounds." Sure enough, it went way up. And that was the last time Lenny wanted to look at any systems. He just felt his good intuition would be suitable, and we'd make a lot of money. And we did. We did, doing fundamental trading. We started a fund called Limroy, and the fees were 25% of profits, no fixed fee, which was, you know, sort of a reasonable thing. And with Lenny as my partner, the first year, the fund doubled after fees, and the next year it multiplied by 6 after fees. So it had, well, you know, 2 times 6 is 12. So everyone had 12 times as much money as they started with. And it was fantastic. And it was all fundamental trading. Still, I felt that, okay, we were lucky in certain ways. I'll tell you one good story about luck. Gold, which was illegal to trade, had become legal to trade. And the gold market, gold prices were going up. And we bought gold in the firm. We bought gold. We had a pretty big position. In fact, Lenny and I split the position. Half of it belonged to him in some sense, and half belonged to me. And it was at $200.50, I mean, $250, $300, $400, $500, $550, I think. I said, "Lenny, you know, I think we should sell this already." He said, "No, you don't know how far it'll go. You don't know how far it'll go." So I sold my half, and it kept going up. And one day, it reached $800. And that day, I happened to be speaking to a friend of mine who was a stockbroker, but I was just chatting with him over the phone. And I said, "What's new?" He said, "Well, what's new is this. My wife went into my closet this morning and cleaned it out of all my old gold cufflinks and tie clasps. And she's now down selling it." I said, "Well, Dick, I mean, are you having financial difficulties?" He said, No, but she's a jeweler," which he was, "and she only had to stand in the short line." I said, "The short line?" He says, "Don't you know there's lines and lines of people selling gold?" I said, "No, but I'm very glad you told me." I hung up with him. I picked up the phone, which went right to the floor of the exchange, and I got Lenny to come over. And I said, "Lenny, sell the gold." He said, "No, you don't know how far it's going." I was the boss, and I said, "Sell the effing gold." He said, okay. And he sold the gold. It was $810 or something like that. The next morning, we came in, and it was $820, and he was so mad. By the end of that day, it was $650. The market collapsed and went nowhere but down after that until it got back to $250 or $300. Not in a week, but it just collapsed. Now, that was totally good luck. I mean, it was good that I realized if everyone is selling something, it may be a time to sell it yourself. But it was luck. It was just luck. So we did well, but I felt that this should be systematized. There should be a way to systematize it. And I brought in another mathematician, a very strong mathematician named Jim Axe, and to do fundamental trading. But he knew about that we had made this currency system, and he looked at it, and he got a good programmer into the firm, and he realized this system could work for all commodities, really. It was a pretty good system, sort of. So we started trading that system, and it did pretty well. And he did research and improved it. We were still fundamental trading, but that wasn't even going so well. I had gotten interested in venture capital to some extent, so this Limroy company was also starting to invest in startup companies, and Axe was running this trading. And at a certain point, the investors in Limeroy, they didn't like this liquid, venture capital. They liked the